This is part 3 in a series that uses sensational raw footage from a German film crew that was produced in mid-September of 1941. The material, being processed for use in Deutsche Wochenschau newsreels, had, at this stage in the production cycle, not yet received the recorded voiceover, and more importantly, had not yet been censored. Much of the material will be completely new, but if you know your stuff, you'll recognize some of the clips and might even know which newsreel it was shown in. For the first minute or so, the audio is so good that I won't be saying anything to allow you to experience it raw. Turn up the volume, it's like being there. Then I'll respond to some interesting comments left from part 2 of the series. At the end of the video, I'll touch on why the war in the East was destined to become one of complete annihilation. There was no room for sincere compromise. These filmed scenes meant to cleverly contrast the supposedly cultured and racially pure Waffen-SS soldiers to the barbarian Bolsheviks they were facing. Finding and filming individuals with especially pronounced asiatic features was no accident. The message was, these were the men that civilization needed to be saved from. In part 2 of the series, I talked about the fate of millions of Soviet POWs and touched on Görings' hunger plan. Comments were generally positive, however, there was also pushback. Some claimed that the invaders had no intention of leveling cities or depopulating entire regions of Slavs to make space for ethnic Germans. It went as far as to claim that they were liberating the Slavs and that the Soviet POWs were treated well. Many are incapable of disentangling Hitler from Stalin. That Stalin was responsible for all of the evils done, and that's it. One of these comments ended simply with the words, "Lies, Judah," which of course is a conversation stopper. You can't help stupid. And then I came across a comment that literally stopped me in my tracks. It was in response to my statement that Stalin had considered returning POWs as traitors and had most of them shot. The comment was, the Germans should have released the captured Russian soldiers, since Stalin would have killed them anyway. A win-win situation. The one reply was, that's pretty sick. You should be ashamed. Which of course is true, but the question he's answering is, what should be done with all the Soviet POWs? Although what he suggests wasn't viable. Obviously, they wouldn't simply release the POWs. his solution to a complicated problem with complete disregard to traditional moral constraints is authentic. These are the kinds of questions and types of answers behind most of the worst atrocities. Here's an example. In May of 1942, Heydrich was assassinated. It was believed that residents from the Czech town, Lidice, had helped the assassins. The question was, how should the authorities respond? The solution was to kill all of Lidice's men by firing squad, and to divide the women from the children and send them to Ravensbrück, to slaughter all of the town's pets and animals, to burn the town, and then to blow up the remains of the buildings, to dig up Lidice's cemetery, to loot the graves and desecrate the remains, to reroute the stream that ran through the town, to completely cover up the former area of the town with topsoil and to plant crops, and finally, to put a barbed wire fence around the entire area. The complete destruction of Lidice was filmed for posterity. Problem solved. And now, regarding the question as to whether the Germans could have liberated the Slavic populations, and so possibly won the war in 1941, I suggest that it wasn't in the leadership's DNA. This is the 1933 book commemorating that year's NSDAP Party Day in Nuremberg, which was the first held during the Third Reich. The book was produced by Julius Streicher, the self-proclaimed Frankenführer, and the man responsible for publishing the racist periodical Der Stürmer. Sorry, I really can't stand listening to Streicher's racist rants. This is an advertisement from a Der Stürmer edition. It reads, Ohne Lösung der Judenfrage, keine Erlösung des deutschen Volkes. Julius Streicher's hate-filled mantra was pretty standard. On the left we see Albrecht Dürer's exquisite 1513 print titled Ritter, Tod und der Teufel, or Night, Death, and the Devil. Here is an appropriate interpretation of its meaning. An armored knight rides through a narrow gorge accompanied by his loyal dog, who has complete trust in his master. They are flanked by a goat-headed devil and the figure of Death. Death's rotting corpse holds an hourglass, a reminder of the shortness of life. The rider moves through the scene, looking away from the creatures lurking around him, and almost appears contemptuous of the threats, and is thus a symbol of courage. The knight's armor, the horse, which towers in size over the beasts, and the fortress on the mountaintop are symbolic of the resilience of faith. It's clear who was seen as a Third Reich's shining knight. Hitler's fanatical crusade for Lebensraum in the East was carefully spelled out in Mein Kampf, and there was no room for compromise. The war of annihilation was to end with conquered lands dominated by ethnic Germans. The liberation of foreign populations was totally out of the question. This 1942 pamphlet, titled Der Untermensch, clearly shows that Slavic populations were also considered racially inferior. The first illustration compares them to the Mongol hordes that terrorized Eastern Europe in the 13th century. Ironically, it was actually the Slavic populations that suffered most. being trampled by the hooves of these supposed horsemen of the devil. As they advanced west, can be seen a murdered baby and a bound and raped European woman. The message here was that the Slavs were the destroyers of civilization and culture. So was it really possible for Hitler to go down in history as the great liberator of the Slavs? I think not. Use the QR code or this link to get to our Patreon page and see our different levels of support to get access to exclusive footage that can't be shown here. Open a free account on our website, military1945.com. If you like this kind of material, please subscribe to the channel and like the video. Thanks for watching.